good, YouTube? It's your girl Stasia Nicole back in again with another video. So y'all, this is a long-awaited video. I have not been on here in about 2 months. The last video I made was how I found out I was pregnant, and it is like 2 months later, and I have my baby girl. She's here. She's precious. She's well, healthy, perfect. So I just want to tell y'all a little bit about my labor and delivery experience and how that went and how everything else played out. So I'm just gonna jump right into the video. I haven't been here in a while, but I miss doing videos, and I'm about to start back up. If y'all have any questions or want me to dig deeper into a certain topic or whatever, just comment and I will get to that when I get to it as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So I had my daughter September 2nd. September 2nd at 3, I forgot, 3:40 something, 3:47 in the morning, I believe, 3:46. So 2 nights, okay, so it was my 39-week appointment, and let's just start right there. So I was leading up to my pregnancy, you know, I didn't have no complications. I kept worrying though my whole pregnancy, like issues, okay, like some days I didn't feel her move, some days I was like, oh my god, is she okay? So I'll like call the hospital or triage, and they would send me in just to, you know, check on her and stuff. And like every time she was fine. I think it was just me like paranoid all the time because like it's my first child, so like little things, like I didn't know what to expect, you know, and I didn't know what was, you know, okay and what was not. But so, you know, I had a healthy pregnancy. It was my 39-week appointment, and I had been watching a lot of videos in the membrane sweep, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. And so I didn't know what to expect when going into my 39-week appointment. But when I went to my 39 weeks, they did a cervix check, and I was still dilated to a 2. I was dilated to for a 2 for a couple weeks because I was dilated at 35 weeks to a 2. So from 35 to 39 weeks, I was dilated to a 2. I was like bouncing on the ball. I was going into the gym while my team had practice, and I would just sit on the ball while I was doing homework and just bouncing on it, rocking and doing all the exercises. But I didn't really like, you know what I'm saying, do too much. One thing I can say I did though was stretching a lot every night. Like I stretched a lot because I was uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. But like one thing I did that helped me is it helped me mentally, it helped me physically, it helped my overall like everything by stretching. I would stretch every night before I went to bed. I would like get on the floor. I'll show y'all different exercises and stuff like that, or stretches if y'all want in another video. But I was, you know, I was saying like doing stretches to open up my pelvic and everything, and just stuff like that. And so leading up to my 39 weeks appointment, I had been bouncing in the ball and stuff like that. And so 39th appointment came, and it was on like a Wednesday. It was like a Wednesday, and yep, it was a Wednesday. And so I went in, and you know, she checked me. She was like, you're still dilated to 32. And as she had her finger to check my cervix, she was like, do you want me to do a membrane? She didn't even say membrane sweep. She said, do you want me to see if the labor make it, you know, the process quicker? And so I'm like, yeah, I knew what she was talking about. She was like, it's called the membrane sweep. And I'm like, okay, cool. I already, you know, researched it or whatever. And coming from me, it didn't hurt personally. I don't know if it's because I was dilated to a 2 already, but it didn't hurt at all. It just felt like, you know, she was just moving her fingers around to open up the cervix. And so I get home from my appointment, and that night, it was a Wednesday. So that night, her dad was came over because I was like, you know, make sure, you know, I'm about to probably go into labor anytime now. And I was like, I remember I was sitting in the bathroom. So that night I was sitting in the bathroom, and I remember wiping, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's blood on the thing. And so I remember telling her dad, and I was like, I'm bleeding. And I was flipping out, and he was all calm and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, like I'm bleeding and I'm having like light cramps. So I'm like, okay, do I need to go into hospital? But so I call the doctor, and I'm like, hey, like I call my doctor, my OB, and I was like, hey, I'm having bleeding. I just had a membrane sweep. And my mom and everyone was like, that could be normal because you know, membrane sweeps can cause bleeding. So I was like, okay. Well, they're like, if you're not having contractions back to back, you know, you should be okay. But the lady, the nurse or whatever, had said that she asked me because I was strep B positive. So she said that I needed to come in just in case I was going into labor, that they could get me hooked up. So I remember telling them I need to go to the hospital. So I ended up driving myself to the hospital and stuff like that. I went to the hospital. They checked everything. They're like, baby's not coming yet. So I go home, and I remember when I get home, I tell him, I was like, I really feel like I was crying because I was like, oh my gosh, like my life's changing. The night before I went into labor, this is the night before I went to labor, it was like 3 a.m, and I was crying. I was just like, dude, like, I really feel like my life's changing. Like, I just feel like something's different. And I didn't know I was going to go into labor the next day. But so the next day, I was like, okay, I'm determined. I'm ready to have her. I can't wait. I'm just nervous, but I don't know what to expect. I don't know. So I'm just like, let me just go on the ball. So that's when I went in the ball and did the exercises. And that was around like 5 or 6 p.m. that night. And so I was calling her dad and stuff again, came back over. He was planning to come back over. And I was walking down the hill, coming back to my apartment. And I started having little mild cramps. And I'm like, I know this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. I just feel like, I was like, no, I'm tripping. So I remember I was on the phone with him. I'm like, I'm hungry. Can you please give me some food? Because, like, I don't feel good. I was crying. I was so emotional because I'm like, no, something's happening. I know. But I didn't know I was going to go into labor. I was just kind of like, it was like this crampy feeling. I'm just like, I'm hungry. I'm irritated. Like, can you just hurry up? Like, you're getting on my nerves. Everyone's getting on my nerves. And so I get in the house, and I think I wipe again. There's blood. I'm like, okay. This is the start of labor. This has to be the start of labor, because I was like, I'm still bleeding. But again, I just had a memory in sleep. So I'm like, okay. And so I remember I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I'm having cramps, like, you know, whatever. And she's like, well, you need to time them. So I get the app on my phone. That's a contraction calculator app or whatever, or times the app. And I remember he was taking so long with the food, I ended up going to get my own food. He don't even know this till this day. I went to go get my own food that night. I went to Panera's, and I drove to Panera's, and I'm in the line. I'm having cramps, and I'm really like trying to like not like hype it up, because I'm like, okay, am I tripping or no? Like, I was like, no, I'm tripping, but I really wasn't. So I was times, and I'm like, okay, they would come again lightly, times them, and it was like every couple minutes. So I get back home. And it's funny because I remember telling him, because he had said something about me going to get food. He was like, well, why don't you just go get food? Because it's going to take me a minute. And I'm like, no, like I'm having, like, I don't feel good. Like, I was just so mad. But I ended up going to get food because I was hungry. And I just couldn't wait no longer. And I was just irritated. And so anyway, I was on my way back from getting food. I got back and I ate. I was talking to my Nana, and I was like, Nana, like, I'm having cramps. Like, this hurt. Like, I don't know. And it's because my family, you know, we talk and stuff. So I was just telling them, like, I don't know what to do. And so, like, as soon as he got there, and I seen him pull up, and I texted him, like, can you come in ASAP? Because I started cramping so bad. As soon as he had got there, I was, like, cramping bad, like, contraction. I was like, oh, my God. And so he came in, he had got food, and I was like, ooh. And I ate some food, right? We had pizza, and I was like, okay, I couldn't even really eat. Like, I didn't have an appetite like that to eat, but I was still like, okay, I want to still eat some more, because I got to play it off, like, I just ate, but I had to bring food still. So it's just like, okay. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm still timesing them. And I'm at this point, I'm like, oh my God, it's getting real. And I went to my room, and I just laid on the bed, started crying, because like every time it would come, it would just get stronger and stronger. And I was just like, it was just unbearable. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And like, you know, he didn't know what to do really. Like, he had to call, you know, his mom. You know, my mom was telling him, like, just rub her back, you know, just be calm, like, whatever. And so, like I said, I started timing them. I was still bleeding. More mucus was coming out. But at the time, my water wasn't broke. So I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to go in. But I was starting to have them every 5 minutes. And then it went from every 5 minutes to every 3 minutes. And then it went from, you know, like, it just kept getting worse. And then they would stop, though, and it would be like 7 minutes, but they would get stronger. So I was just like, okay. And so finally, it was like this last one, and I was like, oh my God, I can't take it. Like, I was like crying. I'm in pain. He was like, no, you just go to the hospital. Let's just go. Keep in mind, he's a type to not, like, he thinks I'm dramatic. So he doesn't, you know what I'm saying, think we should go. So I knew, like, okay, he thinks I should go. It's time to go. And so I called the doctor. I'm like, I'm on my way. I'm having contractions. They're like, we could just come in, you know. And so we about to leave the house. I didn't, you know, grab nothing. I already had our hospital bags in the car. at the time. So, you know, I just get in the car. I wasn't really expecting to go in and have the baby that night. I really wasn't. I just thought this is just the beginning. It's going to take hours later. It's going to take a whole other day. Get in the car and get to the hospital, and I'm just like walking, and like I'm having a little bit, but it's not like I'm like, okay, now they're going away. Of course. Now they go away. And so I was so embarrassed. I'm like, of course, as soon as I get to the hospital, now they want to go away. And I'm like, I stopped kind of like counting them because they're not that bad. So we get up there, I get hooked up on the monitor. We're just sitting there. They put me on the monitor, listen to the baby. And on a machine, I'd had like maybe like a couple contractions on there, but it wasn't that bad. But the other day I wasn't having them. They weren't showing up on the monitor, but this time they were. And so she came in. She's like, we're to check your cervix. And she checked my cervix. She's like, oh yeah. She said, you just had membranes, but you're dilated to about a 3. I think she said a 3 or 4, I think. And she was like, yeah, you're dilated. She said, we're going to keep you another hour because if it goes fast, we don't want to send you home because you're dilating pretty fast. She said, we don't want to send you home because you might have to come right back up here because, whatever. And so she said, we're going to keep you another hour. If you want to get up and walk around, you're free to do that. And so I'm like, oh my God, like my heart was pounding because I'm like, oh my God, I know. Like, I don't know. I was just so like, I was excited, but I was nervous. It was just all these mixed emotions. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, can you guys unhook me from the monitor so I can get up and start walking around? Because I know when I was walking around, that's when I was having contractions. Y'all, I'm ready for these contractions because like they were hurt, but they would come and go. So I'm like, okay, bet I got this. Let me walk around. I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to take it on. I'm ready to get these contractions rolling. They put the ball in the room. I'm like, oh, you can get on the ball. I sat on the ball. Woo, I sat on the ball. I sat on the ball, y'all. I couldn't even sit on the ball. It just hit me like a bus. I promise you. It was the worst pain. I like couldn't move. I was, and he was like, what is wrong? I'm like, bro, this hurt. I'm screaming, cussing. I'm like, oh, hell. I said, oh, hell no. I cannot do this. I feel like I gotta poop. My mom told me that if you had to poop, that means the baby's coming. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's time. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta poop. And I'm screaming, I'm yelling, and he's just like, calm down. Like, I don't know. And so I'm just like, okay, I cannot take this no more. Like, I cannot take this. So I go and I tell the nurse, I'm like turning red in the face because I want to cry. Like, I feel sick at this point. My body's starting to like, I could tell, I think I was in labor because I started not feeling good. And it just happened within like 40 minutes, literally. And so I was like, okay, I need to go to the bathroom. So I started trying to walk to the bathroom, and all of a sudden that came again. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even really walk to the bathroom. And I was on the toilet. They came when I was on the toilet, y'all. It was the worst pain. I was taking it number 2. While having a contraction and trying to pee. I was sitting there like, God, I will never go through this again. I never want to go through this again, Lord. Take them away. Like, I promise you, it hurt. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's not like okay, so it's unbearable, but it's not like a feeling you never felt before. It's like a period cramp, but it's like worse. Like, it's just very intense. Like, and it like lasts for like a minute and then they ease out. So it's not like you're in constant pain for like the whole time. Like, they ease out, but when they start coming faster and faster, that's how like you're closer to labor. Because mine kept coming faster and faster. And so I get out I couldn't barely get out the toilet. I was in like pain, so bad of pain. And I told the nurse, I'm like, please just have her come check my cervix again. So she came in. I love this part. She came in, y'all. I'm sorry, I be smiling because it was just the best feeling in the world. She came in. And she put her fingers up. She said, oh. She said, oh, it's time. She said, oh, it's baby time or something like that. She said, oh, it's baby time. And I was like, oh my God. I was just like in pain though. And I was so excited because I was excited. For one, I was tired of that pain. For 2, I was like, oh my God, my baby's about to be here. And so she was just like, are you ready for the epidural? You're already dilated to a 5 or 6. You're dilating pretty fast, and we need to get you hooked up on your IV because, like I said, I was strep B positive, so I had to get hooked up to an IV. And she was just like, you should get that soon if you want to get it because it is going pretty fast. And I'm like, yeah, let's get on it. So they called over. They got my IV hooked up, and I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm about to have her. And I remember her telling us like she thought she could feel her like a hand or something. And I was just so excited. It was just the best feeling. And I think that he was also like in shock, because I didn't think like it was real for real. You know, we didn't think we were gonna, you know, I didn't think she was gonna be here that night. And so they get me on the bed, they pushed me, you know, they rolled me to the labor in the living room, and I go from triage to labor in the living room, and they said that only one person can be in the room, or whatever. And so they said one person can only be in the room while I get the epidural, because I did get the epidural, because I'm like, yeah, this is crazy, I ain't gonna lie. And so my mom stayed in the room. I had my mom stay in the room with me, because honestly, like, my mom can support me, you know what I'm saying? She understands more. So I'm just like, Mom, you can be in the room, please. So, you know, he had left to go get the stuff, whatever. So he stepped out the room. My mom was in the room with me. Epidural went in. As soon as they did my epidural, oh my God, I felt so much better. Instantly, like, I felt coldness like go up my back, and like I didn't feel no more. It was like a weird sensation. Like it hurt though when they put it in a little bit, but like, I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't that bad. Like, it was, but it wasn't. Like, it just took away the pain. Like, I didn't feel no more cramping or nothing. And like, I felt so good. I got numb, of course, but I felt too good. But one thing I can say was I started to throw up. Like, I started throwing up, but I keep in mind I had ate that Paneras and I ate pizza. And they tell you not to eat before you come and have your baby. So I already had ate. So I had to go number 2, and I had to throw up, and I'm like, oh my God, I had to poop. And they're like, no, I think you're just, you know, that's just the pressure. But I was so mad, 'cause I'm like, no, I have to poop. I know I do. They're like, no, you're not ready to push yet. Like, you know, you gotta wait. And I was just so frustrated, because I felt like pressure. Like, I had to go to number 2, like, so bad. I was just so mad, 'cause like I had to, you know, poo. And then I was throwing up and stuff. So I was laying there throwing up, and at the time everyone came back in the room, and then they had the nurse, and my mom and him were in the room. And I was just laying in the bed, and I was feeling too good. And they wanted me to take a nap, but I was just too excited. And they had my legs, you know, like on they had like the peanut thing that they put your legs between. And I think that I got the epidural around midnight. And I was laying there, like by the time, you know, got everything situated, I was laying there for like another hour and a half. And everyone started laying down. And they were like, yeah, she should be here by like about 5 to 7, like around 7 o'clock, I think they said. And so I was like, oh my God, all night to wait. But I wasn't really feeling no contractions besides just pressure. But the pressure started getting strong. And I mean pressure in my butt. It started getting bad. It was like to the point where it's like, oh, I have to. Like, I cannot hold it, period. Like, I was so mad. And so everyone was my mom and him were about to take a nap. And he had went to sleep. And my mom was like, no, wake up. She's about to have the baby. It was so funny. And I was like, no, I gotta push. And so she was like, okay. And I remember them, they checked me again. They're like, hold on, before you push, we have to check you again. So she put her fingers, you know, and the nurse checked me, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna have the doctor come check you, because I do feel a little bit of cervix, but you're dilated to a 9. You're like half, like you have a little bit left of cervix that needs to move. And so the doctor came in, she's like, let me check. And she put her hand up there, and that's when my water broke. And I was like, as soon as my water broke, oh my God, my body, it just went into shock. I feel like, not shock, but like I felt like I was in shock. Like, oh my God, this is so real. And I just looked, and I was like, oh my God, it's real. And like, I remember like, I just had such bad pressure. Like, it wasn't no cramping anymore, but I had bad pelvic pressure. I mean, bad pressure down there, like in my butt, like pressure down there. Like, I had to go number 2. And so I remember it was time to push. We got my legs up, we got ready. They were like, let's go, let's get it. And it was time to push. So I pushed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't even know what I was doing. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just pushing. And then finally, like after about 6 pushes, about not even 10 minutes into pushing, not even like 5 minutes into pushing, I started crowning. Her head was there. And they were like, oh my God, her head's right there. She's right there. Come on, you got to do it. And I was like, I can't. And they're like, you got to do it for your daughter. Do it for her. And I'm like, oh my God, like I had to get this out, because either way, I'm in pain right now. Like, this is not comfortable. And so I'm like, I'm just pushing. So she got to the crowning part. and they're like, you know, trying to move their hand. I'm like, I can't hold it. I gotta push. And I was screaming. I swear to God, I was cussing, y'all. I was just in a mess. And I pushed it. Now the doctor didn't even get to get in the room. I pushed it out. I pushed her out. And I was like, ah! And I pushed her, and she just came out. And her head came out, and they pulled the body out. And that was the body. Once the head gets out, it's the easiest part. But they cleaned her up, put her on me. She was beautiful. And I was just in shock. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know what to do when they put her on me. I was like, I was crying, but I was in shock. So yes, that's pretty much, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just gonna stop right there because I don't want my video to be too long, and I want to make another part as far as after how everything went. But my nurse was bomb. I love her. She was cool as heck. She was cool. She took care of us, you know, and it was cool, y'all. You know what I'm saying? We ended up having to stay for like a night or two, like 2 nights at the hospital and everything like that. And, you know, at first she wasn't keeping her temperature. And they were a little worried about that, but she ended up being perfectly fine. And, yeah, y'all, I did, rip. I had to get 2 stitches, but that's it. Other than that, I didn't feel them. The placenta coming out, personally, it was taking a minute for it to come out. So they're pushing on me, trying to, you know, put their hand up and grab it, whatever they were doing. That really didn't hurt because I still have the epidural in. That epidural, I'm not going to lie, it saved me. Because I don't know if I would be able to even take that pain without it. I'm not going to lie, it was painful. But the epidural, once it was in, I mean, I was smooth. I was real smooth. And yeah, that's my experience, y'all. I was probably in labor from like 8 o'clock at night to like 3 in the morning. As far as active labor, I was probably in labor for not even a few hours. I pushed her out in like 8 pushes. It took me less than 10 minutes. It was easy. And I just thank God because I really prayed about this. I was so nervous, but I love her. I love her so much, and it's such a blessing, y'all. And if you are watching this because you're about to give birth, like, do not be nervous. Be nervous. You're gonna be nervous. I'm not gonna say don't be nervous, but like, really just trust in God. Pray about it because there are complications and there are things that can happen. Period. And there's something that can happen to me, but I just left it in the hands of the Lord, and that's something you got to do. Pray about it and trust in God because He is the one that can control all things. And so I just left the control in His hands, and He did His thing for me. And I just thank God, all glory to God, because I was safe. My daughter is safe. We are all safe, and we're blessed. And I just thank God that she's here now, almost 2 months later. And I'm a mom now. My body, you know what I'm saying, bouncing back, you know, getting back to my life. And, you know, it's not the same, but it's still, you know, I'm still pushing the fight to be who I am as well, because I'm not just a mother. I'm more than just a mother, but I'll always be her mother. You know what I'm saying? So just fight, push, and be strong. When you go into labor and delivery room, whether it takes 2 days, a day, 20 minutes, whatever it takes, like, just keep in mind, like, this is gonna pass. Like, it's not gonna be forever. The pain, if you don't do the epidural, hey, shout out to you, you're a big dog, because I couldn't do it at all. That pain, it just got so intense, and I was only to like a 6. And that's pretty good, you know, to get to a 6 as well, because some people get it earlier, but I couldn't take it. But one thing I can say is that I did get the IV late. So I was supposed to get 2 IVs, and I was supposed to take them every 4 hours. And I was only able to not even finish 1 IV up. So I had to, like, you know, I couldn't go home. That's why I had to go home like 2 days late. 2 days. I had to stay for 2 days because I have the IV. So yes, y'all, that's my story, but everything is fine with her. She's beautiful, healthy, and everything. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment below on what you would like to see next. Maybe I'll do something with her eventually, but right now I'm not, you know, about to bring her on here because there's too many weirdos on here. You never know who's watching. So anyway, shout out to the haters, shout out to the love, shout out to the supporters. Thanks for watching. God bless you all, and I will hope you all have a blessed day. Next time.